Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam rasulillah. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah for the opportunity to gather again, alhamdulillah, in the masjid. Alhamdulillah for the opportunity to see another Friday. Alhamdulillah for the opportunity to make it this far in the month of Ramadan. Let us rejoice in that blessing, in the blessing of gathering together with our brothers and sisters in the house of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Allow us to remind ourselves very briefly, inshallah, about one of the many purposes of Ramadan, the intentionality behind the month, and what should we consider as Muslims as we go throughout the month, day to day. What should be our objective? What should be something that we aspire to throughout the month? Of course, Ramadan is an opportunity for the Muslim to level up, if you will, to level up from the status of a Muslim to a mu'min, and of course, we want to reach eventually, inshallah, the status of ihsan, or to embody the qualities of ihsan, the excellence, being able to exist as if Allah is always watching us. So how do we understand these three categories and what are their qualities? Well, we can reflect on the hadith of Jibreel. That is essentially encapsulates much of the message of Islam and its teachings. And we know the hadith of Jibreel describes the categories where the Jibreel approaches the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and asks him, what is Islam, what is Iman, and what is Ihsan? And the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam answers each question. And if we listen and we consider and contemplate how he answers each question, we'll understand that each category is a level up, so to speak. Starting with Islam. Submission, but physical submission, right? The worship in fasting, in prayer, in Hajj, in Zakat. These things are submission, our will, to Allah's will through physical ibadah, through rituals. Some might call them rituals or physical forms of worship, where we prostrate, where we exert ourselves, and we abide through these actions. Now, some people can go through these actions almost mindlessly, and they can go through them without consideration or thought. They're still fulfilling the action, but they might not be benefiting from it by concentrating in doing them. But who is the one who is able to benefit through the concentration in these actions? And that is the mu'min. Now, the mu'min is someone who also believes in what they're doing, right? And when the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was asked, what is Iman, the corresponding category for the mu'min, the one who has faith and believes, he responds like articles of faith, believing in the messengers, the books, the angels, and so on. And what then, I would ask, are the qualities of a mu'min? Well, if we look at Surah Furqan, and towards the end of Surah Furqan, Allah offers us the quality of a mu'min as someone who makes dua. Now, let us contemplate what dua is. Dua is more than just a physical action like salah or zakat or hajj. It is not a physical thing you can just do mindlessly. It's not something you can just do in a robotic state. You might be able to pray without considering or thinking, as if you're driving and you lose focus, but you drive for how many miles and you don't realize that you lost focus. In dua, you can't really do that. Why? Because it requires a deep consideration of your words. And what brings someone to dua, to make dua? It is the belief in Allah. And we know that Allah brings us, or is the creator of all things, is the one who decrees the good and the bad, and the day of judgment, and the angels, and the prophets, and the books. So if he has done all of this, then of course he can answer our dua, and he can fulfill our dua. So when we supplicate to Allah, we are entering into a conversation with him, and a conversation engages the heart and the mind. and transcends the body's physical actions. So that is really the goal that we should aspire to as Muslims. People who transcend the physical requirements decreed upon us vis-a-vis Islam and the submission to Allah's will, and transcend that to the point where our mental state of being is that in which we believe in Allah so much so that we will call out to Him and ask Him for help. We will call out to Him and ask Him for guidance, because we know that it is He who is the one who can fulfill these requests and these calls. And then the last category is ihsan, right? And ihsan even transcends belief to the point where it encapsulates our very existence. So it's not just physical worship, it's not just conversation with Allah, it is now, how do we walk? How do we talk? What do we think? What are we doing day in and day out? And do we have taqwa of Allah, mindfulness, consciousness of Allah in all things that we do? And this is the category of excellence. Excellence is what we should strive for. This is the peak category through which, throughout our life, not just in Ramadan, that we should be working towards. And these categories might fluctuate throughout our life. We might be in one or the other at different times, and different ages, and different stages. But of course, we should always be optimistic in our pursuit of Allah's pleasure. And of course, Ramadan is that opportunity to launch ourselves in a direction in which we are mindful of Allah, entering into conversation with Allah, and being cognizant of Allah at all times. And Ramadan, of course, is the opportunity to make extensive dua throughout the night, throughout the day, and between our prayers, before and after our prayers. And know that He is the one who can answer them. And only He is the one who can answer them. So after we fulfill our obligatory, the teachings, the prayer, the fasting, and so on, we enter into conversation with Allah, and then we know our very existence, our walking on this earth. If we walk with ihsan, excellence, this is what Allah wants for us. So as Muslims, these are the things that we should strive for, inshallah. So may Allah give us the status of a mu'min. May He give us the status of ihsan, inshallah. Ameen. May He use us as people who are examples for others to also embody these characteristics. And mu'min is also someone who, when they act and when they walk this earth, people observe their actions and they say, this is something that I want to also embody. So may we be that for other people. May we become a beacon of hope for others, an example for others, so that they can see the benefits of these characteristics embodied on our tongues and our limbs. May we attain this status in this month, and may we also maintain it throughout the year and until next Ramadan. And we continue in an optimistic trajectory, an optimistic mindset that will allow us to continue our growth. Let us consider this month and even beyond it as a marathon, if you will. Right? It is not a quick sprint where we just fly. No, instead, it is a marathon. And that is what life is. And we are slowly moving our way, inching the needle slowly towards Allah Azza wa Jal. And that requires us to submit ourselves physically through the worship of Allah, enter into conversation with Allah, and then walk this earth knowing that Allah is watching us at all times. May we be mindful of Him at all times. May we be cognizant of Him and that which He wills for us at all times. May we embody the characteristics and qualities that is pleasing to Him at all times, and be mindful of His existence and His eternality and our short, finite existence on this earth. May this month be an opportunity for all of us to benefit in a way that is both pleasing to Allah and benefits us in this world and in the next, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Tabarakallah feekum. Assalamu alaikum.
استووا استقيموا